Right, let's talk about Scotland. Scotland's First Minister Ms Sturgeon has suggested that the Scottish Parliament could try to block Britain's exit from the European Union. As you know, Scotland backed Remain despite a UK-wide vote to leave. So, is that even possible? Let's speak to Tasmina Ahmed-Sheikh from the SNP, who was, quote, heartbroken when the UK decided to leave the European Union, and Professor Robert Hazel, who believes it is a far-fetched suggestion that the Scottish Parliament might somehow be able to block Brexit. Welcome, both of you. Would Scotland defy the will of 17 million people across the UK who voted to leave the EU?
Well, let's first of all set this record straight. The First Minister did not say that she would block the vote, because she's not in a position to do so. Neither is there legislation that allows us to do so.
She said she would be able to ask her Parliament for legislative consent.
Indeed.
And it is not, she believes, in Scotland's interest to leave the EU.
So you would accept that as the First Minister of Scotland, the person who has been elected to act in the best interests of the people of Scotland, that she will do what is best for Scotland. And she's engaging with everybody and wasted no time in doing that in terms of having a cabinet meeting while Boris was playing cricket. She was busy doing all the important business of leading her country. Now, in terms of the legislative consent motion, that will of course come to the entirety of the Scottish Parliament, and they will each have an individual vote.
Absolutely. And do you think it's feasible that the Scottish Parliament really could, if it voted that way, try to block Britain's exit from the EU?
They can't block Britain's exit. They can withhold consent in terms of the legislative consent motion. It is then up to the UK Parliament whether they wish to recognise that or not. And
so
the interesting question is, in terms of
sending a message, it would be symbolic.
Well, the interesting point is in terms of this idea of one nation, where Scotland stands within that framework that the Conservative Party talk about all the time. But I should say that Ms Sturgeon gave the Prime Minister the opportunity to look at things from a quadlock perspective, that if we are going to exit from the EU, surely each of the constituent countries that make up the UK should vote in that manner.
All right. Professor Robert Hazel, is it far-fetched that the Scottish Parliament could somehow withdraw or withhold consent?
It's certainly within the powers of the Scottish Parliament to withhold consent.
Would it have any
But I agree with Tasmina. It wouldn't then necessarily block Brexit. That is far-fetched, because it's then up to the UK government and Parliament to decide what they want to do. And it's certainly within the power of the Westminster Parliament to override the Scottish Parliament. That's very clear in the Scotland Act. If it ever went to court...
I'm going to pause. I'm so sorry, Professor. We're going back to Downing Street because Norman is there. Hi, Norman. What's happening?